Hello everyone, you're listening to Let's Get Rocked with presenter Victor Rouă. Hello everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Let's Get Rocked with your host, as always, Victor Rouă. Along with us is David Pistrui, the frontman of Terminal White. Dear David, for today, which is the 26th of March 2022, I would like to firstly ask you, how are you?
I'm fine, Victor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your
You know, I'm
participation.
I'm coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona today, where it's going to be probably 35 degrees, so it's warm and sunny. And always enjoy our time together. So thank you for having me.
Thank you very much once again. For the first proper question of this interview, I'd like to ask you, what can you tell us about the recent developments in your musical career? Thank you.
Well, it's pretty exciting actually at this point. Terminal Light has been around for many years, several decades. And I relocated from Chicago to Phoenix, Arizona about a year and a half ago. And I have a new version of Terminal Light put together out here. It's musicians that I have worked with in the past who reside in the Phoenix area. And we are rehearsing on a weekly basis, and I expect that we have shows coming up, probably summer or fall of this year.
Sounds good.
We're working on rehearsing existing material, and we'll probably write some new material. And then I've also been in contact with my Romanian version of the band, and we have aspirations to put together a small tour and some shows in Romania. That would probably be in the fall or maybe a year from now, depending upon circumstances related to the Ukraine situation and COVID. But we are planning some activities, and we're enjoying our rehearsals, and I expect that that fans both here in North America and in Europe will see us at the end of this year or most certainly next year.
All right, okay, and this actually leads me to the second question, which is the following one. What concerts do you plan to do during this year in the United States and in Romania? And with respect to the concerts in Romania, what cities do you have in mind, or what cities did you already um, book venues, so to put it, beforehand? Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. In Romania, obviously Bucharest. Um, in the past, we've played all over the country, and if I were to make a short list of places that I would like to get to, it would be Cluj-Napoca, Timișoara, Craiova, Bucharest, maybe Iași, depending upon circumstances. Where else? Those would be the primary
Brasov,
cities
maybe.
that.
Brasov, maybe. Sorry to interrupt.
Brasov, Arad.
Cool. Yeah, of course.
Those would be the places that we would desire to play. Maybe even get over to Galants and Tulcha and some of the places that we haven't been in a while.
Maybe Suceava as well. Why not? We are actually expecting you here. Yeah.
Oh, we'd love to come up that way and play and work with you and your colleagues.
Yeah, that would be awesome, actually. And since you already mentioned Arad, it would be very nice for our listeners to get to know the fact that you have roots in Arad, since your family actually traces its roots from this city and from this part of the country, right? So southwestern Romania.
Yeah, actually our family's from Banat.
Okay.
That's where our largest presence is, but we have family roots in Ukraine, Moldova, and Romania, but primarily Romania, primarily the western part of the country. Beba Veche is a small village on the border of Hungary and Serbia.
Yeah.
Timișoara, Saint Nikolai, and that's and Arad and even into Hungary and Szeged and Budapest as well as Romania.
Yeah. So it's basically Banat, And now that we've discussed about the tour that you're going to put forth with Terminal White this year, I'd like to ask you the third question, which is the following one: how can you best label Terminal White, your band, for new listeners? How can you best describe your music to them? Thank you.
It's a journey through time, is what it is, and our music reflects the circumstances of our environment. It reflects what's going on in the world, and it's a chronicle of our journey, and it's about the team and the band, not just about myself as an individual, but it's really about the band and the musicians working together. And you can see that in our music if you look at our various releases.
Mm-hmm.
You take the last release, Blind Pig.
Yeah.
It was crafted really half in the U.S. and half in Romania.
Yeah.
So it was a collaborative. If you look back further to records like 888 that came out in about 1994, that was a reflection of the fact I was living in Bucharest at the time. We were playing all over Romania, and it was an interesting point in Romanian history, and the music reflects that, both in terms of the musicians, but also the nature of the music and the lyrics.
Yeah, that's very interesting indeed. And at that time, during the early 1990s, we've previously discussed the fact that the likes of Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins would be opening up for you back in the United States. Is that correct? Of course, right?
Oh yeah, those were they're a bit younger than we are, and had the opportunity on multiple occasions to not just share the stage with those bands and musicians, but to get to know them and the music scene at that time was very different than it is now, and bands really rallied around each other, and there was much more live music and a lot of different styles of rock music, and so it's an exciting time and fond memories, and nice friendships have been forged over the years.
That's awesome. That's awesome indeed. And now for the fourth question, kind of tell us about the band's history briefly. What was it like in the beginning, and how did the band evolve throughout the passing of time? Thank you.
Well, the band started in the early '80s in Chicago as a two-piece, and at a time when industrial music was just starting to happen. Bands like Ministry, Front 242, and Skinny Puppy, and the like. And so we started writing songs, and I had just moved to Chicago, so I was relatively new there. And we started writing songs and recording them on 4-track recorder, and then producing cassette tapes that we would take to radio and to the nightclubs. And much to our great enthusiasm, the response from the listening audience, both in radio, primarily college radio at that time, which was a very powerful force, and the dance clubs, and the clubs that played videos, and the clubs that played a cross section of rock music and more dance oriented rock, replied to us that they liked our music, which motivated us to bring in additional members. We started to play gigs, and that got us launched. We produced our first couple of records that did really well for us here in the States, and at a time when independent rock music was a very, very powerful force. Mm-hmm. College radio across the country was a dominant form of
musical
getting exposure.
Yeah.
And then playing a lot of colleges and playing in cities, and next thing you know, we were charting and had distribution. And the next thing what happened for us is Europe was very kind to us. the Benelux countries, Germany,
Mm-hmm.
Belgium, Holland,
The
uh,
Netherlands, yeah, yeah.
became big supporters of us, and then we had pockets of support in Japan and South America, and then the Iron Curtain came down, and
Very much
was in
fortunately.
Romania. Yeah, and in Romania, and then the Romanian version took root,
Mm-hmm.
and then we music and perform, and fortunately share time with other musicians and bands, and our fans have been really supportive and understanding, and it's just been a great run. And I'd just like to say thank you to all the people that like our music and support us, and also a big hello and love you to all the musicians that have been part of the band over the years, and that's been over 30 people over the span of our
Wow,
life.
that's commanding actually, and that's something which really shows the volume of the musical creativity that was part of and created Terminal White as it has evolved throughout the passing of time. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And just this week, I got a couple of messages from Romania, from musicians that play in the band, saying, we're eager to get going, and shows are starting to happen more. Let's write some new material, and let's put together a tour and get some gigs going, both there in Romania and other places, and then the same thing is happening here in North America, and so it's an exciting time. It's been an interesting journey. It's had its ups and downs, but for the most part, it's just been a wonderful privilege to be able to make music with the people I make music with, and to have so many loyal fans around the world is just humbling.
That's awesome. That's awesome to know indeed, and our listeners are definitely very grateful to listen to you and to listen to the passion that you share through your music and through your experience as a musician throughout the decades with Terminal White. Now, for the end of the interview, for the fifth question. I'd like to ask you, what are your short-term plans with Terminal White beyond concerts this year, if any? Do you also intend to record something in the studio? You mentioned the fact that you're rehearsing. You're definitely rehearsing some previous songs that you're going to play live from your previous releases, but do you actually intend to release some new material? And if so, what kind of new material will it be? Will it be in a single? Will it be an EP? Will it be a studio album or an LP? Kindly tell us a little bit more on that. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. Um, yes, we want to write some new material. I'd like to do some of that in Romania and some of that here in Phoenix. We've got the musicians put together. So we're doing now what rock and roll musicians call storming, norming, and forming. And what that means is we're rehearsing. Storming is the rehearsal part. That's where we get together and vibe and jam and go through songs that are existing. Uh, Norming is we're starting to get a sense of where we want to take the direction of new material. And that's happening now, both with the Romanian crew and the Phoenix crew. And then forming, which is actually the writing, we're not quite there yet. We feel motivated and we feel inspired. As you know, the world's a pretty evil place at this point in time, and
Unfortunately,
if
yes.
we can, yeah, unfortunately, and our hearts and souls are with the Ukrainians. I'm
Absolutely.
not going to go political, but
Yeah.
just want to say that because we played in Ukraine, we played in that part of the world. So where is the music going to go? That's a secret right now, Victor. I
Okay.
can't tell you where it's going to go because it hasn't been written yet.
Okay, I see.
I expect that there will be maybe 3 different themes. It will certainly have the energy and the consistency of Terminal White music. Secondly, it will reflect our journey at this point in time, which is, we feel fortunate. And then thirdly, it will be something different. It will not be an extension of the previous work. It'll be an entirely blank canvas. And the good news is the musicians who have committed to working on this material are well-known Romanian musicians and well-known here in the U.S.
Yeah.
So we'll have something of value and hopefully a pleasant surprise for all of our fans and listeners.
That's awesome. That's just awesome to get to know. And now for the last question. If you have an additional message for our listeners, kindly tell them what would you want to transmit aside from what we have already discussed. Thank you.
Well, I think the message I'd want to transmit is the world needs more love than hate, and to tell the people that are in your life that you love them and give them a hug, and rally around your family and friends would be the first thing. I would say secondly is, with the circumstances in Ukraine and Russia, that be vigilant and be united.
Mm-hmm.
And Absolutely. Then the last would be to continue to listen to a lot of rock and roll music and to play it as loud as you can.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome indeed. Thank you very much, David, for being with us on the 26th of March 2022. We've just had David Pistrui from Terminal White. Dear David, all the best, much health and much success with your band. We're expecting you here in Romania.
Thank you so much, Victor. I appreciate the opportunity, and take care, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks.